Hey guys, it's Miss Bettis
and Miss Elizondo,
and we're going to be foiling or
multiplying binomials.
Yay! Okay.
Math is fun.
So let's get started. So we're doing some problems off of your worksheet. And before we get started, let's look at these steps that we're going to follow along, and we're going to do this every single time. So the first step is going to be to multiply the terms in order.
First,
then the outer,
then the inner,
and last. And then after that we will
combine like terms,
and then put them in order from biggest exponent to smallest exponent. So you'll see what we mean when we do this next problem. So the first problem we're going to do is this one. We're not going to be going in perfect order, so you might have to pause this video, find out which problem we're doing on your worksheet. But I think you'll live. Do you think so, Miss Elizondo?
Of course.
Okay. So the first two terms. So we're going to look at these two separately. The first term, because we're multiplying our first two terms, is the x here, and then the x in this one over here. So if I multiply x times x, I will get x squared. Now, the next thing to multiply was the outer. So the outside was the x and the 5. So x times 5 is 5x. Now what kind of 5x is that? A positive times a positive is a positive. So you always want to make sure you put, is it positive, is it negative, what are we doing, what kind of answer are we getting? The next one is the inner. So the inside and the inside. So 2 times x is positive 2x. And last but definitely not least, the last two terms, 2 times 5, they're both positive, so you get a positive 10. So now, we look to see if we can combine any like terms. So I look at the x squared. Is there any other x squares? No, there's not. So I'm going to put that one first. Then I see that this 5x, and then there's another number with an x, the 2x. So I'm going to combine those. So 5x plus 2x gives me 7x. And then there's the constant, the number without the x. So plus 10. Now I check my exponents. Is it in order? I have a square, I have a 1, and then I don't have anything at all. So I'm going to leave it just like that, and that is my final answer. So recap really fast. We multiplied our terms. We multiplied the first term, the outside of each term. So here is farthest outside, and here's the farthest outside. Then the inside, the ones closest to each other, and then the last ones. Combine my like terms, and then double check to make sure that they were in order. Alright, let's look at our next example. We're going to do about 13 problems. The last one is a special problem. So, here are our steps. Make sure we follow them. We have our first two terms, the x, and in this case it is another x, so x times x gives us x squared, just like that. Our next one is our outer terms. The one on the outside goes with the other one on the outside. So negative 4 and a positive x. When I multiply them, I'm going to get a negative 4x, because a negative times a positive is a negative. Our inner terms, negative 3 times x, will give me a negative 3x. And then definitely last but not least, negative 3 times negative 4, negative times a negative, that is a positive. And what is a negative times a, negative 3 times a negative 4? A positive 12. So check, can I combine any like terms? There's no other x squared here. So the negative 4x, I can combine that with the negative 3x. So my final answer, I'm going to try to write it without my hand getting in the way. If I'm at negative 4 and I go more into the negative 3, that's going to be negative 7. They both have an x, plus 12. And that's it. I'm done because it's already in order. Usually when you're doing FOIL, it'll be in order for you. Alright, moving along. Ooh, look at this one. Your last number and each one are the same. So let's see what kind of answer we're going to get here. There are my steps. So, first, x times x, x squared. My outer is x times negative 6. There it goes. So 6 times a negative 6. I'm sorry. X times negative 6. Oh, hopefully you caught that mistake before I wrote it. So that's going to be a negative 6x. And then, let's make sure I get this one right. Our inner, a positive 6 times x is a positive 6x. Double check, did I get that right? Making sure you're paying attention and following along. And then our last one's a positive 6 and a negative 6. I was just getting ahead of myself earlier. And what do you get? Positive times a negative? Negative 36. Okay, last part, let's see. Is there anything that we can combine? We know the x squared is the only one. A negative 6x and a positive 6x, when we combine those two, it's going to go to 0, both of them. So they go away. But we do have that minus 36. And this is called a difference of squares. So, it's just a fancy term saying those two are going to cancel out. Alright, our next one. They both have the same number and they're both positive. So let's see what we get with that. First two terms, x times x is x squared. X times 3 are my inner ones. Gives me positive 3x. My inner ones are going to be 3 times x, gives me positive 3x again. Surprise, surprise. And the last one, 3 times 3, and they're both positive, you're going to get a positive 9. So let's see, when we combine these, what do we get? I have x squared. I can combine this 3x with that 3x, and I get a positive 6x plus 9. And that's my final answer. In another lesson, we'll be given this, and we have to get the factors out, meaning going opposite of what we're doing right now. Alright, 3 more with me. We have this problem right here. So, looking at the first two terms, first one in each set, x times x is going to be x squared. Our outer terms are going to be x times 4, positive 4x. Our inner terms is going to be negative 5 and an x. When we multiply those, we get negative 5x. And the last term is negative 5 and a positive 4. which gives us a negative 20. See what we can combine here. The x squared can't be combined with anybody. 4x minus 5x. Well, if I start off with $4 and I want something that's 5, I'm going to be short. So minus 1x minus 20. Now there's another way I can write this. I can write it without the 1 there, and that's okay. Either one of those is fine. That says or. Either one is a correct answer. Alright, now look at this one. What's different here? Well, if you said you have a 2 in front of the x, you are right. So we're going to take 2x, that's together, and multiply it times x. What do you get? 2x squared. Now take that first term and multiply it times the other one that's on the outside. 2x times 3. What does that give us? A positive 6x. Our inner terms, 1 times x, positive 1x. And the last term, 1 times 3, positive 3. So what do we get when we combine our like terms? Our final answer after we FOILed, after we multiplied, you get 2x squared plus 7x, moving this paper, 7x plus 3. And it's already in order for us. So let's do one more like that. Here are steps. Some of you may get the hang of it. You don't need these steps anymore. That's fine. It's just something to help us. 3x times x, the first one in each one, gives us 3x squared. And it's positive. Take that and multiply it, the two outside terms, 3x and 5x, and you get 15x. Take it and multiply the two inner terms. Negative 2 times x is a negative 2x. And the last term, negative 2 times 10. I'm sorry, negative 2 times 5. I'm trying to give you the answer. It's a negative 10. See what we can combine, and you have 3x squared, positive 15, and a minus 2x gives you a positive 13x minus 10. And that is our final answer.
Okay, so let's look at the next problem. So now our two binomials, the x values both have a coefficient in the front. So let's see what's going to happen first. So once again, we multiply the first terms. So the first term times the first term. So whenever we're multiplying, we take the coefficient of both of the terms. So 3 times 3 gives us 9. And then multiply the variables. X times x gives us x squared. Now let's multiply the two outer terms. So the outer of the first times the outer of the second. 3x times a negative 1. That's going to give us negative 3x. And then the inner terms of both. So 1 times 3x, that's going to give us a positive 3x. And the last one, positive 1 times negative 1 is a negative 1. So let's see what happens here when we combine. So first we look at 9x squared. We can't combine 9x squared with anything, so let's just go ahead and bring it down. And then we notice that the two terms in the middle both have an x. Well, negative 3x and a positive 3x, they cancel out like Miss Bettis said earlier when you have the same number but opposite signs. So we don't have to write anything there. And then we can just bring down the negative 1. So you're left with 9x squared minus 1. Okay, let's look at the next problem. Okay, so we're back to just having a coefficient in the first binomial. So let's go ahead and multiply the first two terms. And remember, the x does have a coefficient, but it's a coefficient of 1. So once again, we multiply the coefficients of the first. So 4 times 1 is 4, and then x times x is x squared. In case you were wondering how we get 4x squared. Now let's go ahead and multiply the outer terms. So the outer term of the first and the outer term of the second, 4x times 1 is positive 4x. And then the inner, negative 16 times the inner 1x. Negative 16 times positive 1x is negative 16x. And then the last is negative 16 times positive 1, which gives us a negative 16. So let's see what happens with this problem when we combine. We can't combine anything with 4x squared because it's the only term that has an x squared. So bring down 4x squared, and then we can combine 4x and negative 16x. Well, if you have $4 but you owe $16, do you still owe money or do you have money left over? You're going to still owe $12, so we're still in debt 12. So negative 12x if you want to think about it with money. And we cannot combine anything with negative 16, so let's just go ahead and bring it down. Yay! One problem done. Oh, sorry about that. Let's look at the next problem. Okay, so this is different. We have x plus 4 raised to the power of 2. What does that mean? That means
multiply.
Yes, Miss Bettis, to multiply x plus 4 2 times. So basically we're saying x plus 4 times x plus 4.
So we're done, right?
No, Miss Bettis, not quite. We still have to FOIL.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's look at this again. So remember, multiply your first two terms. So we have x times x. I know you're probably already saying this out loud. X squared. And then we have the two outer. X times 4 gives us a positive 4x. Then 4 times x, same thing but backwards, is positive 4x. And our two last terms, 4 times 4, which is positive 16. Now our favorite part, combining the like terms. So we can't combine anything with x squared. Let's just bring that down. Then we have 4x, and we know that we can combine the other 4x because they both have an x. That gives us 8x plus 16. And it's ordered from biggest till smallest. You want to remember that. Don't forget that step. And we are done with this problem.
Yay!
So I know it seemed a little bit difficult at the beginning, but I hope that you looked at it after we did it and was like, oh, that problem was really easy. Okay, one more like this, but we have a negative. I wonder what's going to be different about it. So let's go ahead and remember that all it means is when we have x minus 10 squared just means x minus 10 times itself, which is x minus 10. Let's go ahead and FOIL. Multiply x times x, which is x squared. Then the outer terms, x times negative 10, which is a negative 10x. Our inner terms, negative 10 times x, which is negative 10x. And last, negative 10 times negative 10. Remember that a negative times a negative is a positive, and 10 times 10 is 100. So let's go ahead and combine our like terms. Let's go ahead and bring down the x squared because there's no other term that has a x squared. Then we have negative 10x and a negative 10x. So you owe $10 and then you owe 10 more dollars. So you're now in debt $20. So negative 20x plus 100. Let's go ahead and box that in. Okay, so 2 more problems, guys. We can do this.
Yay!
Now, Miss Bettis. Okay, so let's look at another problem where we have a squared, but notice that you have a coefficient in front of your x. So once again, that means 2x minus 6 times itself, which is 2x minus 6. So remember, always multiply the first 2 terms. So 2 times 2 is 4, and x times x is x squared, so we have 4x squared. Then our outer terms, which is 2x times negative 6, which is negative 12x. Our inner term, negative 6 times 2x, sorry. Once again, they're the same 2 numbers, just backwards, which still gives us negative 12x. And our last term, negative 6 times negative 6. And remember, negative times a negative is a positive. So negative 6 times negative 6 is a positive 36. Let's see what we can combine. Negative 12x and negative 12x. Let's go ahead and bring down the 4x squared because we cannot combine anything with it. And negative 12 plus a negative 12x is negative 24x. Because remember, you're going more into the negative. So your number gets smaller. And then plus 36. Yay! So last but not least, our special problem.
Yay!
Find the area of the shaded region. So I know you might look at this problem and freak out. Please don't do that. Just take a deep breath and notice, where is the shaded region? It's right here. And do they give us the terms? Yes, they do. So this looks like it's a rectangle. So remember, the length times the width is when we're finding the area. So remember, area of a rectangle is length times width. And our length in this case is 3. And our width is x plus 2. And remember, x plus 2 has to stay together. So we write it in parentheses, x plus 2. So now in this case, is FOIL method going to apply?
No.
Good job, Miss Bettis. I think you'll get an A in this class. No. So let's just go ahead and distribute like we have learned previously, or just multiply it out. So take the 3 and multiply it to 3x. So 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 2 is 6. So positive 6. Now look at your two terms. Can you combine 3x plus 6? No, because the x does not, the 6 does not have an x, so we just leave it like this.
Are we done?
I believe so, Miss Bettis. Thank you.